Here comes Moses. Here comes the quarterback, Burrow. Looking for a block, and he got it up in the front by Hopkins into the end zone. Touchdown!
Fakes, throwing to the end zone, wide open is Higgins for the Cincinnati touchdown.
There's the sneak. Burrow gets low, driving towards the goal line. He's inside the one, and he's into the end zone for the touchdown.
Welcome to New Stripe City, a YouTube channel for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Days Boogie, and I decided to do something very unique and special. I decided, since the Bengals ended up trading Billy Price for BJ Hill, to reach out to some Giants fans and podcasters that are actually notable with the situation. And I wanted to also answer some questions that they may have. So I have from Talkin Giants, my man, Bobby Skinner. Bobby, what's going on, bro?
What's going on, Ace? Glad to come on. And like you said, man, I could watch all the film of Billy Price, and I haven't watched a lot because they got rid of the all 22 for now, which is annoying.
I know,
but
right?
There's nothing like watching a player's every game and the weeks in between that when you are a fan or you cover one individual team. So it's like I can try and gain everything I can about Billy Price, but I'll never get the knowledge that you have from him. So yeah, definitely it'd be cool to talk about it.
Yeah, so I mean, starting things off, I'll throw it to you. Like, what kind of questions do you have for, I guess, Bengals Nation and me about Billy Price? Because obviously, I'm pretty sure you guys, made the trade and you're interested, just like we are, about BJ Hill.
Yeah, so that's what I'll ask you is, how did you guys have a 2018 first rounder? And first rounders get extra long leashes; they just do, even if they're not up to snuff. We had Eric Flowers; he got way more, more of a leash than he deserved.
Right.
How did last year Billy Price not start any game, or he started the one game for when you had injured? Like, how did, and you guys, me and you both know about bad O-line play, like didn't have a good O-line. Like, how did Billy Price go from former first rounder to backup on a bad O-line?
So here's the thing, right? Like in 2018, the Bengals had ironically hired the offensive line coach that we just rehired this year with Frank Pollock, right? And one of the issues had been that the Bengals had some bad offensive line play. Me and you talked earlier before the show about our friend Bobby Hart. And there were a lot of issues there. But one thing that Frank Pollock tried to do was to try to bring balance to this offensive line. So originally the Bengals, I believe, I think we had like the 11th or 12th pick. And we ended up trading that to Buffalo to swap with them. I think it was like the 18th or 20th pick or something like that. And they also ended up sending us Cordy Glenn. So we thought, okay, we're going to get a tackle, and then we're going to go and try to get a center, because we had this center by the name of Russell Bodine who was complete trash. He was horrible. Everybody was like, we need to replace him. So entered the picture of Billy Price. So obviously, with Bengals fans being in the state of Ohio, Billy Price at the time seemed like a no-brainer, right? Because he was at Ohio State and things of that nature. But then Billy Price goes out and gets hurt during the combine. I think he was doing some bench press reps or something like that. Tore his pec, ended up, falling from, at this point, early on in the process, before the combine, or like he was pretty much considered the consensus number one center, right? So while he's out, we start to hear from one of the Bengals media gurus here that's pretty much predicted what the Bengals are going to do, that the Bengals are actually looking at this guy named Frank Ragnow, and that's the guy that they want over Billy Price, right? And so we're just thinking Frank Ragnow is going to be there. It's not going to be a problem. It's no issue. We're going to get Frank Ragnow. Well, Frank Ragnow is drafted by the Lions literally like 2 spots before the Bengals. And so after that, everybody's like, all right, well, let's just go ahead and get Billy Price. So the Bengals draft Billy Price. When Billy Price shows up, there's a whole bunch of, everybody's excited. They're like, oh, this is perfect. We no longer have to deal with Russell Bodine anymore. Everything's good. Some people were worried about the pec and things of that. And he ends up like getting hurt. Now he wasn't extremely horrible, but he wasn't good. Like, he played hurt. Then he ends up getting hurt again. The rookie season essentially becomes a wash, right? So then you're looking like, oh man, maybe this is just the injury. He had the pec injury. He ends up getting another injury. So it's like, okay, well, maybe it's just that. And then the next season happens and he's not good. He's not really that good again. And he gets another injury. And waiting in the wings, there's this guy named Trey Hopkins, undrafted guy, has been playing pretty solid, came in. honestly to perform for Billy while he got hurt. Guy ends up playing pretty good. Guy actually ends up playing better than Billy Price. He used to be a center, or he used to be a guard. Now he's playing center. And so then the next season, the Marvin Lewis kind of tenure ends, and in comes Zach Taylor. So there's no allegiance to this new coaching staff really for Billy Price, right? We bring in a new offensive line coach, Jim Turner. He's not really a fan of Billy Price. So what ends up happening is they not only bench Billy Price, they end up extending Trey Hopkins, and he gets this extension, and he's essentially awarded the starting position. All right. So Billy Price's career is off to a bumpy start, and then he gets a staff that doesn't really want him. But the one thing I'll say about Billy Price is he still was like, okay, well, if they're not going to start me at center, maybe I can get in at one of the guard positions, because our guards weren't good either. And so then they were like, all right, let's move Billy Price to right guard. He didn't, as I mentioned, he didn't really like him, and the offensive line coach didn't like each other. And so Billy Price used literally the entire offseason to gain like 20 or 30 pounds, thinking that that was going to give him an opportunity to start at the guard position. They did not give Billy Price a chance to even compete at the guard position whatsoever. And what ends up happening is, and there was a lot of drama between not only just Billy Price, but a lot of our linemen with Jim Turner. Like Cordy Glenn ended up telling him to cut me. It was a bunch of drama, right? Long story short. And so Billy Price was only getting a chance to play whenever we would have injuries. So we end up having an injury to the point where Billy Price has to play. He plays solid. He's not that bad, but since they already have other guys set, they keep benching Price, and they don't want to play him. Like the offensive line coach doesn't want to play him. So the games that he does play, you're like, okay, he's not bad, but you kind of figured, we already know Trey Hopkins is better than him at center. They don't really like playing him at guard. And so then there was just kind of like this weird dynamic where it's like, okay, Billy's starting to kind of show some frustration, and we were like, this isn't working out. It's seeming like he's probably going to move on. Then the Bengals fire Jim Turner, the offensive line coach, and Frank Pollock comes back. And then Trey Hopkins ends up having a season knee-ending injury last year. So it opens the door up for Billy Price once again to potentially start at center, right, with the guy who drafted him. But at this point, he's still not the starter. Like everybody's talking about it as if Trey Hopkins is going to come back early from his injury and start week 1. And Billy Price played solid. I will say that he played extremely solid in the preseason. He was the starting center for all 3 games because Trey Hopkins, I believe, didn't even play. But it just didn't make sense. Like they didn't renew his 5th-year option. He's kind of had, injury-riddled seasons to start it. And then they just never really gave him another chance. So there's been some people that think that, maybe in the right situation, he'd be better. A lot of people thought we would have traded him last year. And so a lot of people came in thinking, okay, Billy Price is just going to be the backup center. He didn't even get a chance at right guard or left guard this year with Frank Pollock coming back. And then the next thing we know, it's reported that he's getting traded to the New York Giants. So the one thing I'll say about Billy Price is a lot of people regret that we weren't able to get Frank Ragnow, because Frank Ragnow has gone on to be a better player than Billy Price. Billy Price, had some injuries early on. He's played here and there, but it just sucks because everybody's like, man, we spent a 1st-round pick on this guy, and he's not even starting. Now, that's not to say that he's bad or trash, but I would probably say at his ceiling, he's probably an average starter. He's not going to hurt you completely, but he's not going to be a guy that can come in and end up, sneaking onto a Pro Bowl list or anything like that. He'll be solid. He'll be a good teammate. Like even while all of this drama was going on, he had a lot of his former Ohio State teammates on the team, and he was supportive. And even though he wasn't playing, he did things like that. And when he thought that if he could gain weight to play guard, he did that too. So he's a hard worker. He's definitely somebody. I think that when you talk about the Bengals line, obviously, Bengals and Giants, as you said, we both don't have the greatest lines in the world. I will say that he definitely was our second best center for sure. But it just didn't seem to add up. And I know it was reported even before this season started that Billy Price was likely going to look for a fresh start somewhere else. So I think that he'll actually get that with you guys. But he's not Bobby Hart. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the Bobby Hart of centers. He's not, gonna be like, something that is someone that's probably gonna be,
Well, so I watched him in that Titans game that he started last year.
Right.
And to me, he looked like someone in the run game who could like bully dudes and move guys off the line of scrimmage. But in the pass game, it seemed like he was missing assignments and not great as a pass blocker. Like, is that fair? And do you think with that he would be better off at guard, or do you think he should just stay at center?
Honestly, he had some issues at guard per se when they threw him in there. I think he was better as a center. He did have, like you pointed out, that he was better in the run game. I would probably point to that too. The interesting thing about that Titans game is I kind of talked about him just being thrust into that lineup. He wasn't expected to even like really play in that game. And that just talks about the type of person that he is, because with Trey being out of that game, as you know, the center has to teach people what to do. The other side story to that is the Bengals had just literally claimed Quentin Spain like 2 days prior, and they started him that game because they had someone going to the COVID list, and Billy told Quentin Spain exactly what to do on every single play.
Okay.
So that just kind of speaks to what he can do, like, and how smart he is. He did have some struggles, but honestly, there were times that he looked good too, where people were like, Billy Price looked solid, especially you talk about that Titans game. I remember people saying, Price did his thing and he looked solid in that game. But I would probably say early on, if you look at some of the film, it's not going to look as good, but I do think that he's hammered some of that out and has fixed some of that technique. And you didn't even notice it in the preseason this season. So he took even more of, I think, a step forward when you look at some of the preseason games that he played in for this season.
So this will be my last question on him, and Cruz on 26 makes a good point. We have two back-to-back first rounders from the Bengals with John Ross.
You do. That was a civil war for us of who was the worst bust. Was it John Ross or Billy Price?
I did a film breakdown on Ross, and it's like, man, he's exciting. There's 1 year he had 7 touchdowns on 21 catches, but my God, the drops were brutal. Like the most brutal drops of all time for John Ross.
Facts. I mean, I felt like, honestly, like you pointed to, you talk about the year he had the 7 touchdowns. I think his first year in the Zach Taylor system, he was off to an amazing start. I think he had like a
500 yards in 8 games or something.
500 yards in 8 games. And by that point, one of the issues with Ross was, like you said, the drops, the health. Like people were just waiting for when he was going to have some kind of injury or something like that. That was another piece of it. And then sometimes it was the effort on like certain plays. So I think the last straw was like he went for like a 5-yard slant or something like that, and Burrow threw a ball that he could have caught, and he just kind of looked at it. And after that, they kind of yanked him out. He had some stuff with that with Marvin Lewis. But honestly, I think John Ross kind of got a raw deal, especially from the Marvin Lewis era. I've talked to people that are familiar with that situation. Marvin Lewis never really wanted him. He didn't want to draft him, so that wasn't really his pick. And as soon as the kid got in, they gave him an end around. He fumbled and he was benched for the entire rest of the season. Like, think about, if you're a rookie and this is, you're a top pick and you're coming in, you make one mistake and you're benched for the rest of the season. It was kind of crazy. And even with Ross, he had like a injury that he lied about, and Marvin just pretty much gave him a raw deal. But I still think Ross, as crazy as it may sound, I think that you could still get some stuff out of John Ross. I think if he goes into the right situation, if his head is in the right space, I think that he could be an explosive receiver in the NFL. It's just getting that mental confidence, I think. And his confidence was shaken. I talked to TJ Houshmandzadeh, who's worked with Ross as well. And it's all about that mental part. If Ross can get the mental part down, which that's why I was kind of shocked he went to New York, because I'm like, if you can't handle Cincinnati fans in our media, how are you going to handle the New York media? They're going to be brutal. But mentally, if he can get it right, I think he'll be good.
Well, with the Giants, he's not going to be asked to do a ton besides like just be fast. But you mentioned like the Giants fans and media. We've grown to like him. I mean, there's somehow a meme it was like a picture of like someone like lifting their hands in the air. It's like, even when no one got me, John Ross got me. Can I get and John Ross? And it's just can't. So now anytime we mention John Ross, we say and in front of it's stupid. It's probably a dumb joke to explain. So here's the last thing I'll ask you, and then we could talk about BJ Hill.
Okay.
Besides injury, what's the one thing that's kept Billy Price from being a starter or being like a good player?
I would probably say consistency. Like consistently he'll give you some good plays, and then he'll look lost on some plays. But I honestly just think that he needs more reps. He needs more time to be able to develop, and those early injuries kind of cut that down for him. And if he can get consistent, I think that you'll be able to get a solid player from him. Again, I think that he's not a guy that you're going to cut like tomorrow or something. You throw him out there, right. He's not going to blow your entire lineup. But I think if he can get that consistency, I think that he'll be able to give you guys something in New York.
No doubt. All right, what do you want to know about old BJ Hill?
So BJ Hill, what can Bengals fans essentially expect from him within the trenches? Like, what is he good at? Is he a pass rushing defensive tackle? Is he good at stopping the run? What are some of his weaknesses? Just what are your thoughts, I think, on BJ Hill?
Well, he's a two-way pass rusher, run stopper who's going to play like that 3 technique outside the guard, and you could put him outside the tackle in certain situations. His issue with the Giants is just if there's one position we're loaded at, it was defensive line. They had Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. Those are both really good players. I mean, Leonard Williams had 11.5 sacks last year. And then last year they even had Dalvin Tomlinson, who made over $10 million with the Vikings this year. He was just buried behind them. Like, he played 35. His snaps went down every single year, and not because he became a worse player. Just simply they had really good players at that position. And so he was on a contract year this year, and there was a young rookie, Raymond Johnson, who they wanted to put on the roster. So I think they're like, all right, let's shop BJ Hill instead of playing him 35% of the reps his final season before contract. But he is like, he's like, I don't remember any plays in the run game where it's like, oh, BJ Hill like killed us. But he will have like plays where he embarrasses in a guard. Like, go watch the Seahawks game. He was embarrassing them. And then he'll get you, if you play him like 50-60% of the time, he's going to get you sacks. So I think he's just like that solid defensive tackle who can, rush. He's not going to be dominant. You're not going to have like that one trait where it's like, oh my gosh, he does this way better than everybody. But you can just rely on him to be able to be good enough against the run, rush the passer from that defensive tackle group like a lot of guys can't, and finish those plays too. A lot of guys can have good moves, but they can't finish them. BJ Hill can finish them. In fact, if you want to know who our rookie sack record is, it's BJ Hill. Now, they didn't count sacks for Lawrence Taylor's rookie year, but BJ Hill was the I think he had 6.5 his rookie year or something like that. So he's just kind of like that solid player. It's not anything crazy. And then personally, they went and took him out to dinner last night. It made me sad looking at their Instagram stories, like hanging out with BJ Hill. So he was tight knit with those guys. But I don't know how like your guys' D line is right now on the inside. Right. But he's just kind of like that solid two-way player that you really don't get with a lot of defensive tackles. Most defensive tackles, it's like, all right, they're run stuffer, or they're too skinny and they can embarrass guards, but you put them in the run game and they get washed out.
Right. So I think our current defensive tackle group right now is DJ Reader, who they signed a few years ago from the Texans, big free agent acquisition. He primarily plays the nose guard, and then we also signed Larry Ogunjobi from the Cleveland Browns. It was kind of a 1-year deal. He plays the 3 technique, but it seems like we just cut Mike Daniels today, who normally is our other 3 technique. So it seems that they're going to probably try to use BJ Hill in that aspect. And I know that you guys play, if I'm not mistaken, do you guys run a 3-4 or a 4-3?
3-4.
3-4.
But with BJ Hill, because we don't really have great guys on the edge, the outside linebacker spot, a lot of times BJ Hill was the guy in on third down with Leonard Williams. In fact, I'm gonna find a stat for you. But yeah, he's like he was like that 3-4-5 technique, 3 technique. In a 4-3, he's just simply a defensive tackle, like 3 tech.
Okay, gotcha. So it just seems like you guys were so loaded at the position, and you had like a weakness at the offensive line position, and you were just like, let's go ahead and see what we can kind of get for this guy. It wasn't a guy that's kind of not lived up to, I guess, the 3rd round pick that you guys had.
No, I mean, he hasn't, in the sense that he just hasn't been able to like played that much.
Right.
But like we felt good about it with him. Like, so here, like Leonard Williams, like he had more sacks with BJ Hill on the field than he did with Dexter Lawrence and Dalvin Tomlinson.
Okay.
You know, so it's like he can be like that second guy in that defensive tackle group. So, you know, it's not always I'm saying that BJ Hill's the one who caused Leonard Williams sacks, but it's like he does in, you know, 3rd and 8 as a defensive tackle. You can't just like hope to just single block him. Like you gotta give a little help with him.
Gotcha. Somebody's saying he quits on play. Are they talking about BJ Hill or are they talking about Billy Price? I don't know what they're saying.
Maybe John Roth. I don't know. Yeah,
I think John Ross. I think that's probably
Yeah, that comment was from like 5 minutes ago. So yeah, that's probably what it was.
Gotcha. Well, hey man, I appreciate it. I'm glad that we got to talk some John Ross. Unfortunately, we had to talk about Bobby Hart, but fortunately, he is off of the Bengals and the Giants, so we can definitely celebrate with that. But definitely good luck with Billy Price. I think that you guys are getting a solid player. Hopefully, he can help that offensive line because I think we know something as well about trying to improve that offensive line as well. So best of luck to the Giants this season. Is there anywhere that people can find you on YouTube or on Twitter or anything like that?
Well, here's what I'll say. Since you have Bengals fans, you know, like they don't want to see our Giants videos, you know, unless they're insane, which, you know, a few of them might be. But we started a channel called Talkin Football, and if you go to the Talkin Giants channel, you'll see it in like the other channels page. I do a lot of O-line breakdowns, and Jonah Williams is a guy I want to check out, especially since we keep getting your guys' first-round picks. We might be getting him next year or something. So the Talkin Football page is probably the best place if you're a Bengals fan to enjoy our stuff.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, and thank you guys for watching. And as usually, I'll end this with a Who Day all day, every day, and especially on Sunday.
Here comes Moses. Here comes the quarterback, Burrow. Looking for a block, and he got it up in the front by Hopkins into the end zone. Touchdown!
Fakes, throwing to the end zone, wide open is Higgins for the Cincinnati touchdown.
There's the sneak. Burrow gets low, driving towards the goal line. He's inside the 1, and he's into the end zone for the touchdown.